Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member, first of all, thank you both for staying here. Mr. Chairman, thank you for your latitude in giving everybody their time to speak. That means a lot to me. I've already thanked my Republican colleague, Mike Lee, for being the one that stuck it out. I'm sure he's sitting here because he's dying to hear what I have to say.
Ask him, please don't leave.
Mr. Chairman, I consider you a friend, and you and I have worked together on issues around improving our democracy, and I'm grateful for that. I'd like to just make 2 points, and really, the first one is just, I hope, a sanity check for us all. There are conversations going on right now in the United States of America that I don't think have ever gone on before, and that really do involve the sanctity of our institutions, the preservation of our democratic norms, and the security of our democracy. There are a knowledge that we all have, we all see intelligence information, that know from recent FBI reports about our adversaries trying to seize upon that period of Election Day and afterwards, to try to push conspiracy theories and push issues of insecurity into our democracy as a way to undermine us. We know that it is the attempt of our adversaries to make us doubt our institutions. We know that this is the first time in my lifetime that we have had a moment before an election where people have a tremendous amount of fear and insecurity about how this might roll out. Now, I believe what the president says. There's an old saying by a great African-American poet that says, if someone tells you who they are, believe them. This is a president who you should take literally, not just figuratively, and seriously in what he says. This president has been attacking the norms of this democracy, so much so that military leaders, some of whom we both voted for on both sides of the aisle, have been calling him out as a threat to this democracy. When peaceful protesters in Lafayette Park are being fired upon and military called to the scene, it was resoundingly, by Trump cabinet members, it was resoundingly denounced as an attack on our democracy and our fundamental ideals. But yet we as a committee did nothing on that serious breach of our democratic norms, traditions, and I believe law. This is a president now that has turned his attention to this election. He has literally said, if I lose, then the election was rigged. That is very different than anything we have ever heard. Ronald Reagan did not say, if I lose, the election was rigged. We just have not seen that before in our democracy. He is already challenging the legitimacy of this election, shaking the ideals. He is challenging the process of voting. We know that there are red states and blue states. I'm sorry my friend from Utah walked out, but they've been voting by mail for a long time, as has Colorado, as has Washington. But yet this president is trying to insinuate that somehow there's fraud going on right now. And we know, as Senator Cruz seems to talk about violence, we know that since 9/11, the most terrorist attacks in this country have been domestic and from right-wing extremist groups. We see militias in our nation already waving Donald Trump's paraphernalia, using his words in their documents, and now we have a president trying, before an election has even come and gone, trying to insinuate insecurity in this election. I would say to the chairman, I listened to you when you spoke. You said, sir, at the beginning of this, something that is not normal. You said, as a Republican, I am ready to accept any decision of the court as the outcome. We're already talking about an election going to the court, not what is the norm in our process, which is the election process happening. Because we are already now being triggered by this president to believe that we are going to be thrown into some kind of contest or chaos after this election. That is dangerous. You know that's what our adversaries want, and you know that's the weakening of our democracy. For this president to call for the military to be at polling sites, that is more indicative of an autocratic nation than the United States of America. And so what do we have yesterday? We have a president of the United States who who, like all of us, took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States, not willing to say that he will abide by the greatest tradition in all of our democracies on this planet, the orderly transfer of power that has gone on from the beginning of our republic till now. To me, that right there is an overt violation of your oath to defend the Constitution. It is so a-democratic, it is so contrary to the ideals of this nation, it should render him illegitimate to even run for that office. He, to me, has surrendered his legitimacy if he is calling into question the peaceful transfer of power and saying that he will not abide by it. And having already told us that if he loses, the election is rigged, what does that mean, those two taken together? This is a moment that is not about partisanship. It's got to be about patriotism, where our love of our country comes first. This is not normal. This is dangerous. And so how does the Supreme Court play into this? Well, he has told us specifically that we need to get someone on the court because of the upcoming election. How is that not just delegitimizing his presidency as someone who won't abide by our traditions, norms, and constitutions, but seeking to delegitimize the highest court in the land? I worked with the chairman of this committee, on the Special Counsel Protection Act. There was less danger about there being the removal of the special prosecutor than the dangers I'm hearing out of the mouth of this president right now. This should be a time we should be working in a bipartisan way to affirm by resolution of this committee that there should be a peaceful transfer of power, affirming by resolution of the committee that vote-in ballots, that mail-in ballots are a safe and secure way, affirming by resolution of this committee that we believe in our oath and will abide by it. This is why I think the Judiciary Committee should exist. We are independent from a president who's tearing down our democratic norms and threatening our democracy. Again, I quote a cabinet member of his who said Donald Trump, a military leader, decorated military leader, who said to us unequivocally, General Mattis, that Donald Trump is a threat to our democracy. Why are we tolerating someone who in time and time again is showing that he is willing to foment violence, to weaken our institutions, and for the first time in the history of our nation, make people doubt the peaceful transition of power that he himself won't even pledge? The last point I want to make, and I'm sure we will make it again, but I have to, in response to one of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, this Supreme Court justice, the filling of this vacancy, is about a lot of things, from what we know is clear, the President of the United States saying we're going to end Roe v. Wade. We know it's about that. We know it's about the ascendancy of corporate power, as we saw it with the unfortunate Citizens United decision and the documentation of Senator Whitehouse about the power of big money. But I want to hone in on what we know this is about. This is about the health care of millions of Americans. How do we know that? It's because the president has told us that this is what it's about. He has literally said, I am going to end the Affordable Care Act. The sad thing is, he's lied to us numerous times and said, hey, and I've got a plan. Once he told us it was coming out in a matter of weeks. Another time he said, oh, my plan, I'll release it in 2 weeks. There's been no plan. This is why John McCain voted against, because we were taking down the Affordable Care Act, taking away health care for millions of Americans with nothing to replace it with. And so the president, having tried to tear down the Affordable Care Act, has decided through his Justice Department that they would try to win the case to, as he said he wants to do, is to make the Affordable Care Act fall. That is California versus Texas. It is being pushed by this administration's Justice Department. And it's going to go to the Supreme Court. And the very president that wants to tear down the Affordable Care Act with no plan of his own, with no Republican plan in the Senate, in the middle of a pandemic, where millions of Americans who are relying on the Affordable Care Act wants to end it. And you can be sure that the justices he is putting on are going to carry out his will. Why should we believe that? Because he has told us so. His words. If someone tells you who they are, believe them. This is about pre-existing conditions. This is about gender, where women were told that being a woman is a pre-existing condition. This is about the expansion of Medicaid in those states that actually did it, not those handful of states led by Republican governors that refused to expand it, but the millions of Americans who got health care through the Affordable Care Act. And so I'm worried about the issues at hand in this pandemic while people have already started to vote. We know that this is a major concern for Republicans and Democrats, their health care. And to not let this be decided by the voters, as Donald Trump rushes to put someone on that will carry out his will, as he has told us he will, this should be decided by the electorate. And then the bigger issue that I repeat, we know the famous saying, the only thing necessary for evil to be triumphant is for good people to do nothing, to say nothing. And here we are with the president telling us that this election, if he loses it, will be rigged, that he will not abide by the peaceful transfer of power, that he has already tested the limits, that he's already been condemned by people who call him a threat to our democracy that he himself appointed in his cabinet, that he has already sought to delegitimize American institutions. The Center for Disease Control politicized it. The FDA politicized it. The United States Postal Service politicized it. This president has told us who he is. It's time that we believe him. He told us he's going after our health care. We should believe him. We told us he's going after Roe v. Wade. We should believe him. And yesterday, he told us he is going after our sacred tradition of the transfer of power. We should believe him. And this committee, in a bipartisan fashion, should condemn that with every fiber of our love of country, for our patriotism. This is not about partisanship. This is not about left or right. This is about the endurance of the greatest democracy on the planet Earth. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very